G'day, how are you guys? DR here, and welcome to my new Supercoach channel. I thought with the 2020 team picker out for Supercoach Gold subscribers that I'd start to produce a few videos and maybe share some of my Supercoach knowledge that I've learnt over the years of playing Supercoach. I've played I think since the first year, since its inception, and I've had some really successful years. I've finished 33rd overall, which is my highest ranking, and then the worst ranking we're looking, towards 10,000. But I love Supercoach. I'm an absolute Supercoach tragic, on all the different blogs and websites and chat sites, and can't get enough of it. And was absolutely wrapped. It was like all my Christmases had come at once when the 2020 picker came out. So I thought that I'd share my first team, one of many, as we all know. I'm sure that again I'll be set on a team, and then a couple of hours before the Thursday night lockout, I'll be scrambling and I'll change half it again and panic like I usually do. But yeah, as I said, really excited. As you can see, the name's Lisa up there. My wife actually is the one with the Herald Sun subscription, and therefore the Supercoach Gold subscriber. So I need to actually jump in her account to use the team picker. But once I've finished with the team, I'll jump into my account and show you a bit of my history and what I've done in Supercoach over the last few years and whatnot. So we'll start off probably, in my opinion, the biggest lock in the back line. We've got Sam Doherty. So I love him, but I hate him at the same time. I'm an old Brisbane Lions supporter, and for those of you that have followed his career, he was one of the go home five. So I ended up at Carlton for, I think it was a pick in the mid 30s, which yeah, absolute highway robbery by Carlton, but good on him. And as much as it kills me to see him playing in Blues colours, he is an absolute Supercoach gun, or he has been in the past. So he, not last year, not the year before, but a couple of years before that, he was an absolute elite scorer, leading our back lines for Supercoach averages. Last couple of years hasn't been on the park due to injury, which is reflective of his price at 436 there. But look, he's got a heap of potential, and look, although he might be a little bit rusty at the start, he's too good of a player, I think, not to reach maybe not his full heights, but hopefully at least a little bit close to that. So yeah, for me, Doc is an absolute lock. The highest priced player I've got in my backline at the moment is Caleb Daniel, the helmet head. So I'm not really sold on Daniel. I'd love to have Jake Lloyd there for his scoring potential and his ceiling. But I think at 537, he's a reasonable price. What you'll get with Daniel, and I had him last year in my forward line, is consistency. He had a couple of injuries towards the end of the year, which dropped his average down a little bit, which wasn't great for me at the time last year. But going into this year, he may be possibly at a slight discount, although I think the price is pretty much smack on. I think it's pretty fair for Daniel. But pretty much you know what you're going to get. He's got a pretty solid and consistent role down there at the back line, distributing for the doggies, makes some pretty good decisions. Has a pretty good kick. His disposal efficiency is pretty high, so I think he's just a safe pick, Daniel. I've thought of Rory Laird, but a little bit scared after what he produced last year. I didn't start with Laird last year, but I think 3-4 years before that, he was just a staple in my Supercoach side. But yeah, managed to not start with him last year. Sicily, a safe pick, but not a safe pick. I think at 509, he certainly presents value. Look, I've got an absolute rule of no key position players in the forwards and the backs, but I don't really count him necessarily as a key position. I think he's more of an intercept marker. I did get scared off starting him last year after some Val Clarkson's comments about him possibly being a swing man. And I think it happened in a game or two. And look, he did produce a couple of really disappointing, or more than a couple of really disappointing scores last year. I jumped on him just after the buys and was rewarded with one or two good ones, but some pretty average ones, to be honest. But I think with the general pattern coming into the team, hopefully he's in the park next year. Mitch Lewis, starting to really bloom as a player. I think that he'll go back to his friendly role and just lock that down as the intercept marker and the big kick-out defence. So I think at 509 he presents good value. Look, he may not be the best bloke in some people's opinions, but he represents good value. Although he does have brain fades here and there. I wouldn't count him as a Toby Green, but he's sort of next level down, I think, from good old Tobes, from Punchable. But yeah, look, I think that I'll probably take the risk and start him at that price. It does worry me that I've got the three rookies there on field. The cupboard might be a little bit bare in the back line. I may have to do something about that. But McLennan, Worrell, and Gould, don't know a lot about the other blokes. I think that it was last year. McLennan might have been their first pick in the second round, Gold Coast. I'm not too sure. Worrell I've got as a forward defence DPP swing with Stephen Hill, who's currently in the forward line, who I'll talk about later. And Gould, I know, has got a mature body and is ready to play AFL. Whether or not he starts round one, I'm not too sure. I hope he does, so that I can possibly start him on field, but we'll have to wait and see there. Bianco and Rivers as well, rounding out the bench. The midfield this year, I'm not taking too many chances. I'm not stuffing around. I think that there's a group of players that will average absolutely elite numbers, and possibly a handful pushing that 120 mark. And I think that I've selected that handful here, with the exception of probably Jack McRae. But the five mids I've gone with at this stage are Neil, Fife, Kelly, Cripps, and Dunkley. Neil, I've got massive man love for, being a Brisbane supporter. I thought, a little bit unlucky not to take out the Brownlow last year. But yeah, love him as a player. I think he'll continue to post and rack up elite numbers. For me, he's one of those pretty much non-brainers. But I wouldn't, be too disappointed in anyone in not starting him, because there's a few tasty options there. But I think he'll continue to be elite like we saw last year, and if possible, even improve on what he was able to produce last year. Fife, that's probably the position that's up for grabs the most. I'll get back to him. Josh Kelly, absolute jet. It does worry me, his injury history, particularly starting him and Fife, as two of my five premium midfielders, with the histories that they do have. But I think that he's flying at the moment, is in full training, is actually having a full pre-season, unlike the years past. And as I said, absolute jet. I think he can only get better, Kelly. So at 637, not a bad price for Kelly. Cripps, again, absolute non-brainer, absolute lock for me. Was the first player I selected last year, and was again one of the first that I selected this year. He's a monster. I remember watching him, Marvel Stadium, tear up my boys, the Brisbane Lions, in the second half. I said to my brother at the time that, although I was really pissed, obviously, with the result at the end of the game, we were up by, I think it was close to 7 goals early up in the game, and ended up losing to the Blues that day. It was a pleasure actually watching Cripps, at work. He was an absolute monster, and just unstoppable. So yeah, my respect's only grown for him after watching him play live, and again, I think an absolute no-brainer. Dunkley, I think, is one of the best young mids in the comp. You forget how young he is. I think Bevo realises now that the midfield is his best position. I made a huge mistake last year of not getting him in at any stage in my side. So although he's only mid only this year, I'm not making that same mistake, and I'm definitely starting with Dunkley. I know that I'd love to even start with the Bont and McRae, and that five position has been Jack McRae, as you can see, with only 7,800 and really strapped for cash at the moment. So I can't afford to bring Jack in at the moment. I've also tried that out with Oliver, even down to Rory Sloane. And the bloke I'd really, really love to pop in this year, and he's actually a real breakout contender for mine, is my boy Hugh McCluggage. But being over 500k, as I said, I just don't want to stuff around with this midfield. I think that he'll certainly improve on his average and his starting price, but will he be in the top 8 to 10 midfielders? I'm not too sure, but I honestly believe that he can sort of push his way, certainly in the top 20 and close to the top 15. I think he'll be an absolute gun, but unfortunately couldn't fit my boy Huey in. But yeah, that position in particular, that 5 position, is one that's really, really up for grabs. So I'd love in the comments, any other suggestions and players that I could put there instead of Fife. As I said, I'm not too keen on any risky or breakout contenders. I think if you're going to ever have a breakout contender or take a bit of a risk, do it in your backs or your forwards, not your midfield, and certainly not this year for mine anyway. Again, Rao, no brainer. I think he'll be the most popular rookie, probably along with, actually, I'd probably say Pickett might even be the most popular rookie due to Rao's high starting price. No brainers. Some people I know, remember him from the grand. I think lots of people remember him from the grand final, Pickett, and I think it was 90 odd that he produced in the grand final. Is the one off? I certainly don't think so. I think that he's got all the skills to be a really, really solid AFL footballer. We saw what Tim Kelly was able to do last year. So yeah, definitely get Pickett in your sides. And then rounding off just with a few names that are half me and Mead, McGuinness, Williams, who's got the DPP forward eligible, and North. Onto the rucks. Again, no brainers. Just get him in. Grundy and Gawn. Don't stuff around. I don't think I did have a little bit of a play around. Going from a Marshall to an O'Brien, to a Nick Nat, to a Jacobs, and it certainly made the other areas of the ground look a lot nicer. Particularly my back line. I did sort of have Jacobs there, and then another, Primo on the back set around that out. But at the end of the day, I just couldn't bring myself not to have the two big boys in. I think set and forget's probably the best strategy with the rucks. Look, Nick Nat could present some really, really great value, but what I'd be scared of is, if he goes down early, and we know his injury history, how are you going to get to Gawn? You're going to have to, if you want to go from Nick Nat to Gawn and not interested in really any other options, it's going to be almost impossible to get there if he goes down early, because the price cap will just be too much. So you'd have to stuff around in, other areas of the ground and compromise, other things. So I think you just start with the two big boys, in particular Grundy, and just do your set and forget combo there. Comden as a ruck forward from North. Again, I'll look at the best option to have there, but just chucked him in at that stage. And then finally the forwards. So I think the first player I've got there, Lockie Whitefield, absolute lock, one of my absolute locks. 604, I think is actually good value for him. Injured in the grand final and towards the later part of the season, but plays in all areas of the ground. Elite disposal, great decision maker, absolutely runs all day, and I think he'll just improve on his career to date. Absolute gun. Would love him at the Lions. I think we really miss a player like that. You can use him back, streaming out defence. You can use him mid. You can use him forward. Obviously, he's forward eligible this year with the mid as well, so absolute no-brainer. Lock him in for mine. Dusty has been in and out. I didn't think that I'd start with Dusty. I think that, he turns up sort of in second gear. Normally, you probably, smash it round one and you'll celebrate that you start with him and then, go back in the second gear for the next 10 weeks. But, it looks better with Dusty there. Will I start him? I'm not too sure. But I'm at this stage over Heaney. Heaney being, I think, about 5'10" there. I say it each year, but I think he'll break out, Heaney, this year. I would love to have him in. It doesn't feel right not having him in, but I've got Dusty there at this stage. I'd love to actually have Heaney as an F3, but, I'd have to compromise other areas, but which at this stage I'm not really prepared to do. We'll have to see with Dusty, but, certainly not sold on him. Don't think he's a lock. Jack Stephen is another one who definitely not sold on. He's a bit of a wait and see, track his progress during the pre-season. I think if Jack can get his mind and body on track again and in good condition, then he could be a good pick. Where does he play? Does he fill the void of Tim Kelly, play predominantly mid, or does he play predominantly forward? Who knows? I think depending on that will be dependent on if you start Jack Stephen. But at 361, we know that he's produced some really high numbers before. He's never been in the absolute elites of Supercoach scorers in regards to the mids while he's at the Saints. But, he's been a really solid scorer. Ceiling is massive. When he goes big, he can go really big, Stephen. But again, I think a bit of a wait and see and track his progress during the pre-season. Dev Smith, for me, absolute lock at 335. I think he's got great value there. Hopefully he's over his injuries that he suffered from last year. I started him not last year, the year before, and was really rewarded. with that. I think he's, close to one of my best starting picks, and, held on to him for the whole year from memory. So I think what he can produce, great tackler, elite tackler, contested possession, should be around the ball. I know with Shield coming in last year, that may have changed things a little bit for Smith and his role. But if you can get anywhere back to what he was like a couple of years ago, injury-free, when he first got to Essendon, then I think he's an absolute steal, and certainly someone that I'll be starting unless, it looks like that, he's not tracking really well in the pre-season, and then we may have to look at other options. Stephen Hill, again, talk about injury prone. I think he played 3 games last year, but at 190k, his rookie price, he's under 200. I think he's almost too good to refuse, particularly the fact that he's got his DPP and he's a defensive forward as well. So I've obviously got Worrell there to swap them over if needed. Did the same with Darcy Moore last year, and was it Corbett from memory? Burgess that I had swinging with him, which was always handy. I love opening up different options. I've got obviously the forward there in Williams. There are a couple of mid backs there as well, so I'd love to move possibly one of these blokes into the mid just to give me some extra flexibility there if needed. But yeah, we'll see what we can do there. Rankin as well, absolute lock. Didn't see him last year, but he's an elite junior. For those that followed his junior career or are up to date with anything to do with the draft, you'll know that his junior Supercoach numbers were absolutely elite, and yeah, he's just a special player. So I think we'll see a lot of him this year. If he's injury free, I'm expecting 22 games, and he'll be a great cash cow. Rounding off, Carl Cahill, I'm not too sure how you pronounce it, at 117. Again, mid forward swing, and Marnie Mahoney, again, not sure how to pronounce that. Again, 117 with a mid forward swing as well. So that's rounding out the version 1 of 100 and something, 1,000 and something, whatever it gets to. But yeah, let me know what you think about that, guys. Put a comment down below and give me some feedback on how you think I've went, what I did well, maybe who to take out and whatnot, and what to do with the side. So always up for some constructive and helpful criticism and feedback there. I'll sign off from the Supercoach Gold on the wife's account now, and just give you a little bit of history about myself and my quick Supercoach journey. All right, so we'll log out of the wife's account and then log on to mine, which will only take a sec. Right, so just a bit of my Supercoach history. The furthest I can get back is 2014, and that was actually my most successful year. So had an overall rank of 33, managed to be the #1 ranked Brisbane Lions supporter, which was pretty cool. But yeah, a lot of things went right that year. Before 2014, a couple of notable finishes. You'll just have to take my word for it, obviously. I think it was 77th was one of them, and I think it was about 123, in the mid 120s as well, before 2014. But obviously, you can't get back to that. 2015, how'd we go here? Might have blown out a little bit. 1,838, so just under the $2,000 mark there. Next one, where are we here? Yeah, so 7,400, just above there. Next year, so obviously didn't go great there. Oops, skip one. 2018, ended up 540, which wasn't too bad. And then 2019, started off all right, apart from the first round. So, yeah, if we look here, the overall position, obviously didn't have a great first round, but managed to get up to 540, and then just ballooned out after that. Couple of really crucial mistakes that I made, end up just outside the top 7,000. But yeah, a couple of those, as I said before, were not having Dunkley. I never got Marshall in at any stage, or I might have maybe the last round or two. But yeah, hopefully, as I said, I've learned from those mistakes now, and we'll make a better 2020. So yeah, anyway, that's, as I said, a little bit of history about me with my Supercoach. I've had my favourites, had my burn men, like all, but I think that, sometimes you've got to give blokes a fresh slate. I'm certainly not willing to do that for Billings, particularly not this year now. There's not a forward and a couple of other burn men, but I suppose my advice is, go with your gut sometimes. There's been, many times, and particularly, even starting last year where, I was going to start particular players, and then you go on the sites and the blogs, and people say, oh no, he's no good, or do this, don't do that, and you tend to go against your gut sometimes. But I reckon 80% of the time, my gut's right, and that would be my advice, is that if you're not sure, try to follow your gut. Don't always listen to what the crowd's doing or what everyone else is saying, because you may be right, and more likely than not I have been in the past, but still haven't learned from those lessons, and still continue not to back my gut. So that's something that I will hopefully be doing again this year. So thanks again for watching, guys. If you like the video, then put a comment down below or give it a thumbs up. Apologies for the quality of the mic and the actual video itself. I'm no good when it comes to this stuff. Never really done it before, but thought I'd just have a little bit of a play. Downloaded a free little software device to get myself up and running. No great microphone or recording device at all, so apologies about that. But as I said, if you like the video and want me to contribute a little bit more, let us know down below, and if not, let me know as well. So good luck with the team, guys. Hope all is going well, and fingers crossed it's out for non-Supercoach Gold subscribers soon. All right, take it easy, guys. Cheers.